We're rich. We're rich. I need to call my wife. Oh my god. Babe. Babe, we made it. Yep. Septum piercing and butterfly tattoo. She has it all. We're rich. We're rich. We made it.
Hey guys, what is going on? It's Hiran the Mummy and welcome again to my desert themed atmosphere. For today guys, I have a video, but before that, I did a poll on my community and it was, what is, in your opinion, the biggest red flag? So are you ready to see the winner? And the winner is... Oh, excuse me, it's my avatar in there. And the winner guys, it's a high body count with most of the votes, followed by blue hair with tattoos, piercings. Honestly, in my own opinion, in my own humble opinion, these are the two, these two are the biggest red flags. So good job on that, guys. I also read through the comments. You have some really good takes on it. So from now on, I'll be eventually posting some memes or, some polls that you can answer. So stick up for that. But with that being said, guys, let's check on the video we have today, which is quite interesting, I thought. So let's give it a look.
I prefer a purer woman than more of a hoe.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and there's a lot of factors when it comes to liking a girl, but I think if the exact same girl and then she slept with 1,000 men or 3 men, it's like I don't judge the girl that slept with 1,000 men. Live your life, but yeah, you're gonna want the girl who has had less men inside of her.
Right.
Even if I were to say that there was any weight on body count, I would say you'd have to consider the circumstances that body count happened in, right? Where that person was at, why they were sleeping around, right? And what space they might be in, right? Someone
guys
can
don't
completely
care.
change their habits. But
guys actually
I don't think
care.
that's true. I don't believe that's true. I think that is actually kind of making too much of a generalization. I know you work on the general, the rule and not the exception, but that is too much. It's a lot more nuanced than that. I don't think as many men as you think actually.
So I'm just saying, if a woman came to me and said, "I've slept with 1,000 men because I was broken and I had been abused and blah blah blah," right? You still slept with 1,000 men.
Where's the compassion in that, though? Where's
that's? I'm not thinking about. I'm thinking about you've had 1,000 penises inside your vagina.
You are going to be with.
Man, this guy is savage, but he's right. If you've gone through a 304 phase, no man with self-respect will want something serious with you. Regarding of why you did it, maybe he will feel compassion, but that's it, he will not date you at all.
Someone, shouldn't compassion be a main factor in that relationship, right? And understanding of who they are, of what they've been through, shouldn't that be a main factor?
The world doesn't owe you understanding. Like, that's entitlement. You're not entitled to someone's compassion and understanding. And I think men are allowed to be selective in who they date. And like, I think men are allowed to have standards. And if that's their standard, so be it. And it's not every single guy, but I think in general, if you poll men, would you rather have a girl that slept with 100 or slept with 1? They would pick 1. And are they less picky than they were 100 years ago? Sure. You were a hoe if you slept with 3 people 100 years ago. Right. So are they less picky now? Sure. But you can't undo the wiring. What in general men.
Yeah, and you know why you can't undo the wiring? Because it is something biological. Because it's natural psychology for a man to dislike a woman that has been with a lot of people. And the same goes for women actually, but more so for men. Because having a high body count reflects a lack of commitment and a downgraded set of skills that make you a stable relationship partner. Because at a psychological level, and this has been proven by hundreds of studies already, each time you emotionally invest in someone different by sleeping with them, you lower the value of what commitment means to you. Also, having a high body count reflects a rather loose way of living. Because if in your life you have direction and you want a good man and you want a family and you have clear goals, you will not be spending years of your life in nightclubs, sleeping with strangers, or throwing yourself in the dating market like a cheap stock. And hey, if that is what you want to do, it's your choice. But expect the same type of man, because no man with self-respect who has his goals clear will want to marry a woman who has done those things.
Men want.
So where would you say that's come from in terms of them wanting that? Where would you
it's
say
biological?
Because
that had to biology develops, right?
Tell you.
So where is that developed?
So historically they had.
Actually, guys, I haven't watched this whole video, only a few parts of it, and kind of interesting how this man agrees with me. You know, he said it's biological. I found that interesting.
To ensure paternity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So historically, like a men did not want to pass on resources to a kid that was not theirs. So they're biologically predispositioned to be grossed out by hoes, you know, basically.
Yeah. Because it's like, well, whose child is that? It's not mine. It could be like, it could be Stanley's and Derek's. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't know. And so you're trying to, I hear what you're saying, but you can't undo the biological wiring that human beings have had for centuries, thousands of years. It just is what it is.
Can we put a marker on where this historic number is coming from? You're saying 100 years ago. That was 1922. So
okay.
What? So like
maybe
so
direct.
Yeah,
even 1922.
So between
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry, between World War I and World War II. And in what part of it's a very vague argument you're saying. You're saying historically 100 years ago.
Well, you could take data from like the 1950s where the majority of high school graduates were actually virgins before like the whole birth control was introduced and the sexual revolution like happened in the U.S.
Because most birth control wasn't actually invented by then.
You're right. Like I'm not saying like women. It gave women the option to sleep around, but that's what I'm saying. Back then, it was like it was bad. Like it was looked down upon if you had more than a certain amount of sex partners. And you can even think of this anecdotally. Like if I start telling my mom if I start telling my mom about the body counts like of girls nowadays, she's disgusted. She's like, "What on earth is going on?" I tell my grandma. Cool. I tell my grandma. But that doesn't
totally
have anything. That's like irrelevant to the conversation. Really, I tell my grandma about like the body counts nowadays. She's like, "What is going on in these streets?" And we could just say like anecdotally. And me when I hear,
yeah. And the reason that your parents and your grandparents didn't approve of a high body count is because they understood that it makes them a bad investment. And they told their children to be careful and that trading your body for a little bit of fun isn't exactly the best deal. Nowadays, however, we have all the media promoting promiscuity, series such as Sex Education, which, by the way, is the worst series I've seen in my entire life, promotes promiscuity and deviant sexual behavior, and gives this idea of how parents should encourage their children to quote-unquote experiment, which basically translates to encouraging them in all their desires and lust and hedonism. And we have drag queens talking to toddlers about deviant behavior, because why not, right? Why don't we teach children and teenagers to be the furthest apart from a serious, stable relationship as possible, so they can ruin their lives at an early stage and not be able to learn how to manage a real relationship. So in turn, they can have bad marriages that lead to divorce or to an unhappy family or an unstable family structure. And if there are any kids in between, for them to suffer as well the consequences. Great plan.
Like my little sister with the stories that they tell me, I'm like, what on earth? But it's like every generation. Go ahead.
In America right now, 100% of women that enter the college system around 17, right? Only 12.3% leave virgins. Only 12.3% leave college virgins.
Wait, you give me an 100%.
You got 100% of women entering the college education system, and when you leave the college education system, only 12.3% are virgins.
What's that statistic for men?
For women.
So what's that statistic for men though?
4.5.
4.5 men leave virgins, and
14.5.
12.5%.
12.3%.
So
okay, there was a lot of numbers there, but in case someone didn't understand it, basically 12% of women and 14% of men. So a 2% gap.
We're talking a difference of like 1.5%, 2%.
So what happens during the college years now, in these days and times, is people are definitely more promiscuous.
In the most formative years of their life, when they're supposed to be going out and experiencing new experiences.
So, by
experiencing new experiences, You mean making all the wrong choices that will lead to an unhappy, unsuccessful life, right? Guys, I think that your young years are truly for experiencing, for walking into the world, testing the waters, but that somehow doesn't translate to going through a hookup phase in your early years. Imagine life is like a minefield, and you try to reach the end by stepping on as little mines as possible. Everyone will step in one eventually, no one is perfect, we all make mistakes and bad choices, but the thing is you have to try and learn from mistakes to identify future mines. Every time I hear someone say this argument of you should experience in your early years, it comes most often than not from a person who basically steps in every single mine along the way and doesn't even care to try. You know, all of the TikToks we see from women who have hit the wall, saying things such as, my prime years were my testing ground. I needed to experiment to get to know myself better. Every mistake was a lesson. Nah, I'm not buying that. There were no lessons learned, you just stepped in all the mines along the way because you were careless and now you regret the consequences. So in resume, yes, it's natural to experiment in your early years, but that is not a free pass to do silly things. Be wise. I don't need to be walking at 3 a.m. in a dark street until eventually someone beats the crap out of me and robs me to understand that going at 3 a.m. in a dark street is unwise and risky. I don't need to experiment that. I think I'm intelligent enough as to know without experiencing it. Thanks.
So then we have this whole...
it's a misnomer though, like it's a complete misnomer.
So do you think society benefits from promiscuity or it doesn't benefit from promiscuity?
I think it's completely irrelevant.
You think promiscuity is completely irrelevant?
Yes. I think whether it benefits society or not.
You can pause the video to laugh for a minute. Promiscuity is irrelevant, guys.
Is irrelevant. I don't think I don't think that it should be definitive enough as like one person, 100 people, 1,000 people. It is a benefit or not to society.
You can't prescribe statistics to that. It's just like you can't be going 12.4% of this because it's relevant, subjective to each individual, and they're in a bodily autonomy.
Okay, but do you think it's good for families that people are sleeping around more?
In what sense?
Like, do you think it's good to go into a marriage with a bunch of exes? Is that good? Like, and I just say this from experience because my parents have only been with each other, and like where I would see, you know, exes come back in the picture, and like some of my friends' parents' marriages and like other stuff come in where my parents had like only been with each other, and I think it was better for their marriage.
And that's a completely subjective view. It's complete. Like it's.
Well, you could say that, but when you also have data to back it up,
right?
I would say there's other factors that go into that. And I kind of bring back what I said about kind of having a certain amount of self-awareness, right? When you choose to go into marriage, I think people have to take accountability for their pasts and acknowledge, you know, where they may be still holding on to things before you enter into a big commitment like that. And I don't think, you know, the number of your body count or the number of people you've been with prevents you from being able to do that. I feel like you can still make the choice to do that. You have to make the choice to do that. But I think it's independent of your body count. And I think even if you slept with a number of people, if you have the self-awareness to be able to say, this is what I'm still holding on to, these are the people I'm still holding on to, this is why it didn't work out, I'm choosing to move forward with that. That's a choice. And you can actively make that choice consciously, right?
You're right. And that's why it's not 100%. Yeah. But I'm saying like every person you sleep with brings more baggage to the next relationship.
You can learn to release that baggage. You know what I mean? And if you make that conscious choice.
You can, but I don't think most women do.
Yeah, but then I think the conversation should be about how do we, when you say that people don't owe you understanding and compassion, I would actually disagree with that because I would say at a
No. You see, the conversation should be about why would you put yourself in a disadvantageous position where you have to release all the baggage you've stacked up through the years by sleeping with multiple people, giving your heart to be broken by idiots, and having trauma and psychological problems from past dating experiences, when you can avoid all of that in the first place. I mean, there are people that need years of therapy to get through a bad dating experience, and even then, they are scarred for life, their attitude, their values and perspectives on love and commitment are worsened, and you mean to tell me that you will fix all of that before you get married? Why not avoid it in the first place? But still, I have to be honest, props to this woman. I find her mostly coping with the fact that she has made bad decisions, but at least she is trying. And the fact that she realizes she has to let go of her baggage before entering a serious relationship puts her light years ahead of the blonde guy, who is ignorant and can't see a feet ahead of him.
Base, as humans, we owe each other understanding, we owe each other empathy, we owe each other acceptance, so that we can actually work towards a middle ground on these issues and find a way through, instead of kind of just placing the blame and pushing people into a space where they have to victimize themselves and struggle.
Okay, so you're talking about compassion. Imagine that a man has had a bad childhood, and because of that, he beats his wife. Would you have compassion for him? Or would you just date a sane person instead? Or, you know, for all the women that we constantly see demanding a 6-figure salary from a man, let's tell them to be compassionate and understand the situation and to date a broke man.
Struggle to take accountability because they're constantly being attacked for it. You know what I mean? So,
but I think accountability comes with being honest. And I just think it's dishonest to say there's no consequence for sleeping around. And like most men will be lined up to date you even if you slept with 100 people. Like that's dishonest.
But I don't.
And I think it's lying to a younger generation of women when we should tell them to be more pure and protect that.
More sleeping around brings more abortions, right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Did you hear the blonde guy just laughing there? Let me play that again.
Abortions, right? Yes or no?
So now I can only guess what political stand you have, given that you laugh at preventing a child to be born. I'm not going to debate whether that is morally correct, because I don't want to be political on this channel, but let's for a moment assume that preventing a person's life is something morally correct. Even then, abortions are still a problem because they harm women a lot. Some women have psychological problems for years after an abortion, so even though you don't care for the babies, at least care for the impact abortions have on women. Have some decency before you arrogantly laugh, showing how nihilistic you are towards everything in life.
Yeah.
Right? It brings more deaths amongst babies, people killing their babies. It brings more sexual transmitted diseases. So like I was saying, it's being
single mothers.
Single mothers also. Like I said, is it better for society or not? And you're saying that promiscuity, or some people here are saying promiscuity, it doesn't matter. But it does, because it affects society. It creates single mothers, it creates dead children, and it also it does, and it creates sexual transmitted diseases.
Don't men not putting condoms on like create babies as well as women, or like I don't understand
women
why
not using
the
or women not using the 41 forms of birth control that are available to them. There's like too many options to not get pregnant.
If a woman gets pregnant, it's on her. It's not on the man.
Yeah, because you can also require that the men you sleep with wear condoms. You can make that a requirement. So I would say it's like on the women if you get pregnant.
As many of you know, I was just banned on TikTok, and we are demonetized on a daily basis on this platform.
This, guys, is what thinking against the mob is. She got banned from TikTok, she got demonetized on YouTube, just because she has a different opinion. And I'm sure most of you already know the situation, but man, I just have to comment it because it really sucks. It really sucks how this woman seems like a totally pleasant individual. I bet she hasn't insulted anyone. She has been polite, just a good person. But, you know, just because she has a different opinion, she gets banned on TikTok. Meanwhile, we have, you know, all the radical womanists saying absolutely horrible things, and they are not banned. So yeah, guys, this is how it is. And of course, you have heard Taylor say many times how his channel can be banned every moment. I wouldn't be surprised if my channel gets banned, or Work's channel. Yeah, you're just not allowed to have a different opinion.
If you want to help, please consider sending.
That's it, guys. I really like this video. Man, I really like this channel. This is the first video I found. Just Purely Clips is the name. Tell me if you will be interested to maybe cover more videos of this channel. Tell me if you liked it. And leave me down in the comments what your thoughts are. And also, guys, one last thing. Last video I did was 25 minutes. This one will be around 20. I usually make videos around 10 minutes, so Please let me know what format do you like. Do you like the longer videos? Do you find them interesting? Do you get bored at some point? Would you prefer that I do 10-minute videos, or are you okay with 21s? Please give me some feedback, as I'm constantly trying to improve and get better. With that being said, thank you if you made it till the end, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.